Welcome to online classes. I am Shilpa. We are learning OOPS through C++ subject. In that, we have discussed what is meant by inheritance, what is the necessity for inheritance, what are the different types of inheritances. In that, we have seen single inheritance, its syntax, and example program on single inheritance. And we also discussed the second type of inheritance, that is multiple inheritance, its syntax, and some example programs in previous lectures. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss about multi-level inheritance. Multi-level inheritance is, in the name itself, it is having more than one level of inheritance. More than one level of inheritance. That is, if we derived a class from a derived class itself. If we are deriving a class from another derived class, that is not the base class. Always we know the definition of derived class. Derived class is the one which is derived or created from the other class. That means when we are using this term derived, we can come to a conclusion that it is not the base class. It is derived or created from another class. So here the definition of this multi-level inheritance is that if we are deriving a class from another derived class. If we are deriving a class from another derived class, then that is called as multi-level inheritance. That may be that derived class may be at second level, first level or second level, whatever it is. If we are deriving a class from another derived class, then we can say that that is an example for multi-level inheritance. So if you observe here this is the base class. From that base class we derived one class. Here we are deriving class 2 from class 1. Okay, so if you observe here, it is having more than one level of inheritance. This is one level of inheritance which is inherited from the base class. This is the another level of inheritance which is derived from first level derived class. Okay, so this type of inheritance is called as multi-level inheritance. It is having more than one level. Level in the sense this base class comes to the level 0 and any derived class from base class is comes under level 1 and any other derived classes from level 1 classes comes under level 2 and any other derived classes at level 3 are which are inherited from level 2 classes. Level 2 derived classes they are comes under level 3 classes. Okay, so like that we may have more than one level. So normally if you compare this with single inheritance, this is an example for single inheritance, base class and derived class. So this is an example for single inheritance. It is having only level 1. Okay, so when we call that as a multi-level, if it is having more than one level. So single inheritance is not called as multi-level because it is having only one level. But if we are having more than one level, then only we can call that as multi-level. And how we can uh, that is implement this multi-level inheritance. So the syntax for implementing this multi-level inheritance is as usual. Here we need to use the keyword class and here we need to specify class name 2 or derived class name 1. Derived class 1. Derived class 1 colon visibility mode and class name 1 or here base class name. I repeat, the syntax is the keyword class, derived class 1, colon visibility mode base class name. Okay, and followed by its definition. And that is not the end of the syntax. It follows here the keyword class, derived class 2 name, derived class 2 colon visibility mode and derived class 1. Derived class 1. Okay, that is here the derived class 2 is derived from derived class 1. Okay, 1 means here we can say that is at level 1. Okay, this is derived class 2. That is this derived class is at level 2. So derived this class that is at this level 2 is inheriting from a derived class at level 1. Okay, and followed by its body. So this is the syntax for declaring a multi-level inheritance. Declaring a multi-level inheritance. Class, derived class 1, visibility mode, base class. Class, derived class 2, visibility mode, derived class 1. Okay, the syntax will be like that. So if you observe an example for that, here we are having one class A and its members. So this is the base class. So now in order to implement this multi-level, first we need to create an derived class or new class from A. So for that the syntax is class B public A. B is the derived class from class A and its body. And in order to implement this multi-level, here we derive B from A. So here in order to implement multi-level, here we need to declare one more class from this B. So that is here class C public B. Class C public B and its definition. Okay, this is the syntax for multi-level inheritance. Always you need to remember when you are writing that is in exams, okay, or when you are learning these concepts. First you need to remember one thing, that is if you have to explain about inheritance types, then first you need to write the definition of that type of inheritance, and after that you need to represent that in diagrammatically. Okay, and after that you need to write the syntax how this particular type of inheritance can be implemented. You need to write the syntax for that, and after that you need to provide an example for that type of inheritance. Okay, this is the hierarchy. Okay, this is the process, or these are the steps to be followed when we are explaining or we are writing this a particular type of inheritance. You need to remember all these steps or processes. Okay. So for that, first here we are going to implement this multi-level inheritance. So for that, here I am taking one class, that is the name of the class is person, and person may have name, age and gender. Okay, so I am making these three variables as private data members for this class, and after that I am declaring two member functions, that is get data and display in public section. So here this get data is used to get values for these variables. Get data function is used to read values for the data members name, age and gender, and display function displays those variables. This is the base class, that is person. Here we are making that as the base class. So in order to implement multi-level, first we need to derive a class from this person. So here I am deriving the class student. from base class, in this case person, and it is having its own data members, that is roll number and branch, and two member functions with the same name as the name of the base class, get data and display. Get data function reads values for roll number and branch, displays these values. So even in this get data, I am calling the get data function of the base class, that is person. So here why I need to specify like this, because here the names of the member functions of both base and derived classes are same. In base class also I am having the same member function, that is the name of the member function is same as the name of the member function of derived class, that is get data and display, and same function names I am using in derived class also. So in order to distinguish base class get data function and derived class get data function, here in derived class get data function I am calling base class get data function using this or by specifying the name of the base class, that is person scope resolution operator get data. Okay, so before going this, once when you are executing your program, simply first omit this person scope resolution. That means try to call get data of base class. Okay, because here you are writing the definition of get data function of the derived class. So here by thinking I want to call the member function, that is get data function of base class. There is the name of the base class, member function of base class is get data. Simply use get data. Okay, simply call this particular get data. So of course at compile time you will not get any errors, but at runtime you will not get any output also. You will not get any errors at compile time, but in the same that is at the same time you will not get any output, because at the time of execution here the compiler will get ambiguity. So that is, if you are not specified the name of the class name here when you are calling this get data, here that is the derived class will have two functions, that is get data which is declared in derived class, and another function get data which is copied from the base class, So the compiler will get that is ambiguity. Okay, and you will not get any output. So in order to overcome that particular runtime error, here we need to specify the name of the base class, that is the name of the base class is person scope resolution operator and get data. So here what it means, it simply means that you are going to call the get data function of the base class in get data function of derived class, and after that as usual all the data members, and in display same here we are going to call the display function of the base class, so that is person, and here printing roll number and branch, all these things. And after that here this is the definition of the derived class student. So in multi-level, so here we are having one base class, that is person. From this person base class we derive student class. In order to implement multi-level, we need to derive one more member function from this student. So for that here I am declaring one function and one class, that is exam, from derived class, that is student, which is derived from the person class. So multi-level. Here I am deriving the class exam from another derived class student, that is here this is derived from the person. I repeat, here we are deriving a class exam from the class student, which is derived from the class person. So this is an example for multi-level. Okay, so this is very important. That is the implementation of this exam class is very important. Okay, so if you ended till this, that is you implemented or you declared or you created the class student from the person, then that will be an example for single inheritance. Okay, which is having only one level, but not an example for multi-level. So in order to make or implement this multi-level inheritance, you need to create one more class, that is the exam from the student, which is derived from the person. Okay, and its data members m1 and m2 and member functions get data, total and display. Okay, so here total is simply returning some value, integer value. And if you observe this get data and display functions of definitions of this exam class, obviously here it is going to call get data function of its base class. Here exam class base class is obviously student. Of course, this is a derived class of person, but with respect to this class exam, this is a base class. So in order to call the get data function of that particular class, here we need to specify this particular name of the class. Even here you can call here person scope resolution get data. Even you can call the base class or the first class. Okay, normally we can call that as a base class. Member function get data in, not in its immediate derived class. Okay, not in its immediate derived class. In its successor or grandchildren. You can make use of the member function get data of base class person in its grandchild. In its grandchild. So how this exam is becoming grandchild of person, because here student is derived from the person. So we can say this student is child of person class. And as the exam is derived from the student, we can say this exam is the grandchild of the class person. Okay. So totally here this grandchild or the class exam is having three member functions with same names get data. I repeat, this grandchild, that is the class exam, is having three member functions with same name, that is get data. One is copied from its grandparent and another one is copied from its parent and third one is its own. Third one is its own. So if by creating object for the class or grandchild, in this case exam, if you want to call the member function get data, here this exam class is having three functions with same name get data. So in order to specify to the compiler to call the get data of grandparent, parent or its own, we need to use the name of the class when we are calling that member function. That's why here in grandchild, that is in exam, if you want to call the get data of its parent, that is student, okay, here simply you need to call that get data using student scope resolution get data. If you want to call get data function of its grandparent, that is person, you need to use the name of its grandparent, that is person, in order to access the member function get data. Person scope resolution operator get data. So this is very important in this case. Already we call this person get data in student get data function. So here we need not to call, but even we can make it or call that grandparents member function in grandchildren body also. Okay, and of course it is having one member function, that is total, which simply returns m1 plus m2, and one more member function, that is display. Here also, if you want to call a display of the grandparent, that is person, you can write that only, that is person scope resolution operator display. But here we are calling only its parents display, because its parent display is calling its grandparents display, that is exam's grandparents display. Okay, so that is already here we have written, that is in student get data. It is calling its parents get data. So internally here this is student get data and exam get data. Okay, so it is calling student get data. Okay, so like that we can make use of, or we can call the member functions of either parent or grandparent by specifying its name of the class in grandchild if the names of the functions, these member functions, are same in all the classes. This is the constraint when we need to use if the same name on names, okay, for the functions are used in all the classes. The same name is used as a function name in almost all the classes. So in order to distinguish them, we need to call those member functions by specifying the class name. Okay, and after that, this is over, and display simply it is calling, and after that involvement simply here this is that last level person, student, and exam. So we need to create an object for this exam class, and using that key, if you call get data, it internally calls get data of student, and get data of student internally calls or invokes get data of person. Okay, that means here these three get data functions of these three classes will be executed by calling simply this e dot get data. Likewise here, when we are calling this display using this object e, it calls display of its parent, that is student, and after that this student is calling display of its parent, that is person. So internally we are calling display functions of these three classes. Okay, this is an example program for multi-level inheritance. So now open okay. So take new one, limit, and write the code. I will string folio first class class person, class person, and its members, char name, and int age. Only I am taking two variables here in order to reduce the code, because here our intention is simply to know the concept, that is how we can implement multi-level inheritance. Okay, so here I am reducing the number of data members which we discussed previously, and void get data and void display. Okay, end of the class. Now specify object that is defined all this get data and display out of the class. So the function is the type of the function is void, and it belongs to class person. Scope resolution operator, get data and access values for cout, enter, name and age, okay, and scene into appropriate variables, scene, name, age, okay, and after that, end of this, now void person display, scope resolution display. Okay, now simply display name and age of the student. Cout, cout the name of person. Name of the person is, name of the person is. Simply print that variable name, and after that cout age, age of the person is age. That's it. Now uh, derive another class, that is student, from this person class. So that is in derivation public person, public person, and it is having some variables in the roll number. Even here I want to reduce the number of variables, okay. And public, I am now taking branch and all those things. Void get data, and here itself I want to write cout, enter roll number, enter roll number, and seen into appropriate variable, that is roll number. Okay, that's it. And one more member function, void get data, sorry, void display, void display, and cout student name, sorry, roll number is, is the variable roll number. That's it. And end of the display, end of the class. Okay. Now we are going to derive one more class from the class student, so that this is an example for multi-level. I am going to create or derive a class exam from which one? Student. Okay, normally here the student is derived from person, but exam is derived from student. So this is multi-level inheritance. First class is person, we are deriving student from the person, and after that we are deriving exam from the student. Okay, so that is from the derived class. Deriving a class exam from already derived class, that is student. Okay, so this is an example for multi-level. And write its own definition. Public int m1 comma m2. Okay, and void get data. So here I want to call all the get data functions in exam class. Okay, so here get data, student person is having get data, and even this student is having get data. Okay, and exam is also having get data. So here what I want to do is I want to call the get data of its grandparent and parent. Okay, so for that the grandparent name is person. Person scope resolution operator get data. Get data. And its parent's name is student. Student get data. Along with that, it has to have some code like enter values for m1 and m2 and read into those variables. See out, enter m1 and m2. Seen into appropriate variables m1, m2. Okay, that's it. And one more member function void display, which displays all the contents of its parent and its grandparent. So here first it is going to call display function of its grandparent, that is display person display, and student display. Okay, and along with these three it want to print its own values, okay, its members values, that is see out the marks. Marks are M1, M1, M2, M1, M2. Okay, that is display. And end of the class. End of the class. See once again. Person get data display only name and age. We are reading name and age, and we are displaying name and age. And student, which is derived from person and which is having only roll number. It is reading roll number. In exam, get data, display. And after that, into main, okay, and create an object for derived class. That is finally here we are having exam. So using that object, call the member functions. Get data and e dot display. Okay, and get ch return 0. Now first save the file, multi-level. Multi-level and compile it. And include iostream.h. Compile it, run the program, enter name and age, ABC, and age 16, enter roll number 5, enter M1 and M2, 30, 20, the name of the person is ABC, age of the person is 16, student roll number is 5, the marks are 30, 20. See, though here in main we called only the member function of derived class, that is exam. Internally, this get data is calling the member functions of person and student, and display is calling member functions of person and student. So here, by calling only these two functions in main, we are able to call all the member functions of both the classes, that is parent and grandparent in this case. Okay, so this is if you want to see the sequence of execution of the program, even you can use F7. Of course, in my program I am unable to use because functional keys are not working. So simply press it, that is by pressing F7. Okay, then you will get the sequence of execution of your program. Okay, uh, you can able to see the exact sequence of execution of the statements in our program starting from main. Okay, simply first I want to show only one thing. See, the program execution starts from main, and after that F7 we need to press again and again. So here, as I said, I am unable to operate this. Okay, again modify, again it starts from main. So after that again you press F7, F7, F7. So after another time if you press F7, then it will enter into this exam, that is this particular line will be highlighted. And after pressing this F7, then this particular line will be highlighted. And from this, the after pressing F7 again, you will jump to the get data of this E. Okay, that is here. This particular line will be highlighted. And after that, this will be highlighted. So it will call the get data of person. That means again it moves to here. Okay, so you can clearly able to see the actual sequence of execution of our statements. Okay, by using this trace, that is F7. Okay, I am unable to show you because function keys are not working here. Okay, and this is all about multi-level inheritance. Okay, next one is hierarchical inheritance. So I think this is multi-level inheritance is clear to you. Okay, you can take some other example in order to implement this multi-level. That is, if I want to simply take multi-level, right? So take two classes, that is A, class A, with the variables A comma B, and otherwise only A, okay, and derive another class from A, that is B, and it is having int variable B, okay, and from here you derive one more class, that is C. Here take one variable C, one variable C, and add the variables A and B, okay, add A and C. So like that, even you can try for multi-level inheritance. Simple example for multi-level here. This is, so there is one class A, which is derived B class, and from B we derived C class, okay, multi-level, and here in this last class, that is in C, access the variables of A and B using the member functions are directly by making this int A and int B as public. You can directly access them in derived class C. Okay, if you want to call directly, you can make these members as public. Okay, otherwise use some other member functions to access the values of A and B, and make use those variables A and B in derived class C, and get the that is add these two numbers. Okay, you can implement the program for multi-level. So this is simple uh, multi-level program. You can try it. Okay, one class which is having only one member data member, and one member function to read value for this, and one member function to display. Like that for B, one data member B, one member function to read value for B, and one more member function to display B. And here see, uh, one member function to add A and B, and one member function to display C. Okay, and in main, by creating object for that C, called all the member functions of A, B as well as C. Okay, so like that you can try another program for this multi-level inheritance. And next one is hierarchical inheritance. Here the property of one class may be inherited by more than one class. This process is known as hierarchical inheritance. That is, if you derive more than one class from a single base class, then that type of inheritance is called as hierarchical. If you are deriving more than one class. In previous examples, if you observe, always we derive only single classes. Student from person, exam from student. That is, we derive only single classes. If you want, if you derive more than one class from a single class, then that type of inheritance is called as hierarchical inheritance. Okay, the properties of one class may be inherited by more than one class. This process is known as hierarchical inheritance. So this is an example. This is the base class, and here these three are the derived classes. Derived 1, derived 2, and derived 3. So we can create more than one class classes from the base class. And this is also another example for hierarchical classification of students. If you take this student as a base class, they may be divided into art students, engineering students, or medical students. And even these engineering students can be mechanical, electrical, civil, computer, IT, like that. And in medical, maybe like PG, UG, like that. it may have some other, that is some other classes can be derived from this particular class. So this is hierarchical inheritance. And this is also another classification of bank accounts. So account that account may be saving account or current account, or even fixed deposit account. Okay, in a bank the account may be of these three types: saving account, current account, or fixed deposit account. And in fixed deposit account, that may be short term, long term, or medium term. That is, here we are deriving more than one class from a single class. So this is an example for hierarchical inheritance. So try to implement a program for hierarchical inheritance. Okay, that is here uh, using the same classes which we discussed in previous example, that is for multi-level inheritance. So here already we are having in that particular program person as a individual class or base class. So use the same code of this person, and of course this is also derived from the person. So till this particular thing the code is same, like multi-level in hierarchical, the definition of person class and the definition of student class. Okay, in previous example this exam is derived from student, but now derive this exam from person. Only you need to change that is that is creating this exam class. Okay, simply modify this class exam colon public, instead of student write person. Okay, and call the appropriate variables. And here in main, as we are having two derived classes, we need to call because there is no direct communication between the student and exam, so we need to call individual objects for these classes, student and exam, and we need to call all the members of these classes. Okay, so in this case this is different. We need to create more, that is two objects. In till now in single, multiple and multi-level we created only one object for at most class or bottom class, but here as we are having more than one classes at bottom, here we need to create objects for all the classes which are at this particular level, and using that objects we can make use of all the functions of these classes. And try for this, that is implement a program that is simply modify multi-level program into hierarchical program. So in today's lecture we discussed mainly multi-level inheritance, how this will be implemented, and we discussed hierarchical inheritance, and I have given assignment for you people to implement a program for hierarchical inheritance.